flowers have formed a symbolic part of the marriage ceremony since the beginning of recorded time. They are steeped in tradition and symbolism, and nothing signposts that you're at a wedding better than flowers. When considering a supplier to hire, visit florists close to the venue. Go to the shop or studio and assess both the quality of the flowers and the expertise of those who will be working with you.
The way I work is really on personality, so I like to get a good idea of the bride's personality, what she likes, her sort of style. So I ask for things like pictures of the wedding dress, where they're getting married, what sort of style she likes, vintage or contemporary or green and white.
Does it matter if a couple come and they're a bit lost as to what they want? Does that matter to you?
Not at all. I think sometimes it can work well because you can inspire someone just by showing them pictures of things, and then they'll say, oh yeah, I really love that. So you get an idea of their personality and you can sort of help them along the road.
I would almost be quite tempted to look back to the past and maybe look at some celebrity brides whose bouquets don't appear to have dated. I mean, Grace Kelly is the one that everybody quotes. But if you go for something classic, cream and green, for example, is very big at the moment. It's not really going to date. In retrospect, many things date, but I think anything classic, the perception of classic rather than trendy, is always going to stand the test of time.
And then budgeting is always a big issue,
Yes.
both for you and for the client. Is it helpful for people to come to you with a budget, or is it more helpful to know what they want and then you price it up?
I think you can do either. It does help to have an idea of a budget because then you can give advice on where to spend the money. So if it's quite a tight budget, I always recommend spending it on the table arrangements and the key pieces where everyone's going to spend most of their time at the wedding.
So if you were on a tight budget, what would be your top tips?
I would say avoid putting flowers in areas where people are going to be there for 20 minutes, 15 minutes. There's no point putting pedestals in a foyer of a hotel if it's the area where people are passing through. And church, you may only be in a church for half an hour, 40 minutes. It may be a really ornate church, so you don't need flowers on all the window sills and pew ends. So just really key pieces sort of where everyone's focused.
Yeah, I always feel in a church we're all facing forward. So I see clients putting in wonderful arrangements in window sills and nobody looks at them, everybody's looking forward.
Absolutely.
The day we visited Fabulous Flowers, they were working on two very different weddings.
The bride was very particular that she wanted spring flowers, she wanted seasonal flowers, which is one of our ethos really. We hate using flowers out of season. A, because they push your budget up, and secondly, because they're not particularly good condition at the wrong time of year. You know, if you have a tulip in summer, the head's going to be the size of a penny and it's going to wilt. She wanted scent, and I always like to use scented flowers in weddings because it evokes memories in the future. You know, when she smells freesias and stocks, it's going to remind her of her wedding day, which she was quite keen on. And then she wanted a very simple country white and green colour scheme. Basically, the more variety and the more types of foliage you put into something, the more country it looks. If you use one type of white flower with just one dark green foliage, then it looks more contemporary and modern. The room where the wedding breakfast is very high ceilinged. So we're doing a mixture of low and tall arrangements in there so that you get a wow factor when you walk into the room, something at that eye level, and it also brings the height of the room down a little bit, and then some low arrangements for people to talk over while they're sitting around the table. We tend to use very thin containers, again, so that you're not crowding the table and taking up too much sort of a visual space, and glass works very well for that because you can see through them.
Avoiding all low arrangements means that when guests are seated, there's still visual impact. Otherwise, your wedding photographs will simply show a room full of people having dinner. But do avoid taller arrangements for the top table that could obscure those standing to make speeches. For the second wedding Matthew was working on, the budget was not as high, but I really don't think that's obvious. The venue was an Oxford college. The refectory tables are fixed in place, as are the lamps. So the couple have simply tried to complement what is there and to reflect that they're hosting a celebration rather than the usual college formal dinner. So they've clothed the tables and added simple but numerous floral arrangements, but in a way that is not trying to compete with the surroundings.
So they've gone for simple glass planters, spring narcissi, blue muscari, white muscari, and then we've thrown a little bit more money at the top table for a beautiful spring arrangement, and that reflects the bride's bouquet.
You might already have a vision of how your wedding flowers will look, or you may need some advice. But as with every area of wedding planning, take an informed decision. What flowers do you already like? Do you prefer traditional floral arrangements or a few wildflowers in a simple vase? What flowers do you buy for your home? And how do these preferences fit with the style of wedding you're planning, what you'll wear, the time of year and the surroundings? But the right flowers will transform a venue, bring it to life and create a stunning sense of occasion.